potentially from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was able to email me and say that he was without communication, and so we were able to do that. But these things happen throughout the deployment. When they're working on certain things, they go without communication. And so what I know is you say an extra prayer, and I know that once he's back online, he'll let me know. But he was anxious to know that everything was okay. I said, I'm okay. He said he's okay, and that was enough for us to send messages to each other, and now we'll just wait until we can actually talk.
And actually, many U.S. government services would actually be disrupted, and hundreds of thousands of federal workers were furloughed without pay if Congress fails to provide funding for the fiscal year. Now, the Social Security Administration will continue to issue retirement and disability benefits, but it will continue under the Medicare and Medicaid health programs. The Veterans Administration will continue to benefit veteran benefits, but the Small Business Administration will not be able to issue any new loans, though loans for small businesses are hurting by natural disasters and will continue. Most employees of the Federal Emergency Management Agency would remain on the job, and the agency would risk losing out for funds of disaster relief and long-term recovery projects. In 2018-2019, the White House has furloughed 1,100 of its 1,800 staff in the Executive Office of the President. Some offices, such as the National Security Council, continue at full strength, while others, like the Office of Management, were scaled back sharply.
Equity markets, private markets, including private equity markets, where they're covered only by the weaker SEC disclosure rules.
The private funds total assets under management are about $26.5 trillion.
But how much was poured in last year? Do you know the number? I want to look at what's happening
I'm
now.
sorry, it's in the low single-digit trillions.
Well, does $4.5 trillion sound right to you?
We could get back, but it's probably in the ballpark.
Right. Okay, it's right. So do you know how much money investors put in the same time period into the public market where they got much better protection?
What you're highlighting is there's as much activity and in some years more activity in the private markets than the public markets.
Do you know what the number?
Yeah, any good news welcome at this point, right? Well, the news is that folks on Social Security will not have to file a tax return in order to get their federal stimulus check. Those are expected to be mailed out here within the next week or so. And the Treasury Department officials there announcing that Americans on Social Security or disability will no longer have to file taxes.
So more financial relief is on the way for millions of low-income households. The lawmakers have actually agreed to send out stimulus aid to those being impacted by the crisis. So Americans may actually qualify for monthly checks of up to $100. And with inflation at record highs, Americans are feeling the pain of higher prices. It's especially true when it comes to filling their gas tanks. And as of June 22, the average price of a gallon of gas was more than $5. In an effort to provide some sort of financial relief, the federal government has actually come up with several short-term options for assisting the public, while also addressing the larger short-term and issue of inflation at hand. Some of these ideas include tapping into emergency oil reserves as well as federal gas tax holidays to encourage more production out of the oil companies. One of the leading proposals at the moment is the Gas Rebate Act of 2022. It has been dubbed the gas stimulus. Similar to the stimulus checks that were sent out during the crisis, the gas stimulus check would be a series of checks sent to qualifying Americans. Now folks, listen to this. Each payment would be of actually $100, with an additional $100 for households and dependents. And for each month where the price of gas was higher than $4 a gallon, the eligibility requirements are less than $75,000 for single filers and less than $150,000 for joint filers. Many individual states have taken matters into their own hands and approved similar measures for their residents. For instance, in California, gas costs are considerably more than others.
You may not know right.
Folks, we got 10 of these about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security news, SSI, and SSDI. Continue watching this video because you definitely don't want to miss out on this important stimulus check information. Action is being taken right now. Kevin McCarthy has just confirmed that a debt ceiling vote will likely happen on Tuesday, and this could save millions of Americans from huge financial changes from the federal government. Today, Kevin McCarthy announced that Congress will meet the deadline to raise the debt ceiling, acknowledging that no deal has been made by voting an agreement will be reached in time to prevent a government default. Janet Yellen raised the stakes in the marathon negotiations on Friday, when she provided the first hard deadline for when the government will be unable to pay down all of its obligations. June 5th, everybody, is the date. And asked if Congress can meet that deadline, McCarthy didn't hesitate to say yes. McCarthy vowed that he'll stick with the 72-hour rule, providing lawmakers a full 3 days to read the text of the legislation before they're asked to vote on it. McCarthy even said he's been in talks with Senate leaders about how much time they'll need to meet the June 5 deadline. And if a deal is reached tomorrow, that would set the stage for a House vote on Tuesday. McCarthy declined to name the barriers that remain as he and his deputies haggle with the White House negotiators over the last outstanding disagreements. But he said Republicans have not dropped the demand for permitting reform designed to eliminate regulatory hurdles to energy infrastructure projects. It's something Democrats have opposed for fear that it would degrade the environment at the expense of poor communities. McCarthy also confirmed that Republicans have been in discussions with Carson Sinema and moderate Democrats on particular issues. The speaker outlined the rollout of any deal and saying he would make a vague announcement that would withhold the details of any agreement to allow lawmakers to read the bill before the press and public do. Still, people all over the nation are now wondering what will happen to lawmakers if their personal finances are not met. Based on Social Security Administration payment schedules, a June 5 default might actually protect beneficiaries from the potential delayed checks and direct deposits, because individuals receiving the payments are still going to receive the money, but maybe in a later date. If the Treasury Department is unable to successfully prioritize payments for Social Security, the consequences for these groups can be devastating. Beyond the initial group of payees, the Social Security Administration monthly payment calendar suggests that there is a bit more breathing room for other beneficiaries, providing that lawmakers reach a deal beforehand and the next
if you can make $1 million or $1 billion, I said trillion, if you make $1 billion or $1 million, God love you. But just...
I can't believe this is happening, folks. Millions of Americans will see their monthly benefits disappear. And the White House has already confirmed that Joe Biden will be ending the national public health emergency. And so what this means is that many low-income households, seniors, will see a drastic change to the monthly benefits. Now, the White House has officially announced today that Joe Biden intends to end his public health emergency. And that means that many Americans can have to start paying for testing and treatment after the declaration ceases. So the White House folks said in a statement that this wind down would align with the administration's previous commitments to give at least 60 days notice prior to the termination of the public health emergency. So this has enabled the Americans to provide, and the government to provide Americans with tests and treatments at no charge, as well as other enhanced social safety net benefits, and to help the nation cope with the crisis and minimize its impact. So a senior vice president at the Family Foundation told CNN, people have to start paying some money for things that they didn't have to pay for during the emergency. That's the main thing people will start to notice. Most Americans covered by Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance plans have been able to obtain tests at no cost during these times. Those covered by Medicare and private insurance have been able to get up to 8 at-home tests per month from retailers at no charge. But now, not anymore. Now, what does this mean for the big topic of the fourth stimulus check? Well, several of the most meaningful enhancements to public health assistance programs and things like that are about to end. Most notably, states will now be able to start processing Medicaid,